Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
I found this saying in the back of an old book, and it's really great advice. Live with no regrets. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Work like you don't need the money. Love like you've never been hurt. And dance like you do when nobody's watching. How true. Good morning. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America on a Tuesday, and a beautiful one at that. Good morning. Call in with the pledge. Here we go. And a good morning to you. Good morning, good morning. I'm Zeb Bell at Zeb at the Ranch, and along with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. Great, great people. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, along with some of our great advertisers, and that's Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Call them at 734-6969. Right now, let's go to the phone line and have our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Lorna. Go ahead.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You know, you always do such a good job. Thank you very much, and enjoy the beautiful Tuesday.
Oh, I will, and you too.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Lorna. Wonderful, wonderful lady right there. Let's go now with the weather forecast, and the weather brought to you, of course, by Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox. And they're offering up to a $1,700 rebate on qualified new Lennox home comfort systems. You better call them today. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 678-0459, along with Lennox. Here is the weather.
It's going to be a beautiful day today. We're looking at sunny skies, high of 81 with an overnight low of 54. Make sure that you wear the sunscreen if you're going to be outside for tomorrow. Winds are going to be picking up out of the west, right around 21 miles an hour. Still going to be sunny, though. High of 73 with an overnight low of 43. Thursday, we're cooling off. Still going to be sunny. Winds are going to die down as well. High of 65 with an overnight low of 44. Then maybe some morning rain showers on Friday with a high of 66. That's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
I appreciate it, Gina. Thank you very much. And right now, let's also remind you, the Burley Livestock Sale Yard, 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley, sale on Thursday. You better believe it. This is the sale that works for you. Merv May, Cade Rogge, Lance Udy, all of those folks working hard for you. And don't forget, call the number 678-9411 for cattle consignments or sale information. Thursday, sale day at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard in Burley. You be sure and remember that, and be there at 10 a.m. I think they're going to start 11 this week. We'll find out. 11 o'clock at Burley Livestock Sale Yard this Thursday, sale day. Let's see, what else have we got cooking? We got a lot of people coming on the program this morning with various and sundry items of conversation. So it's going to be kind of a really interesting program today. Don't forget, Two Daryl's Cleaners. And, I mentioned this the other day. A guy called me and he said, "Are you serious that Daryl's will wash my clothes, fold my clothes, dry my clothes, and iron all my clothes?" I said, "Yeah. And same way with your jeans. I mean, just take them in there and they'll help. They always have me. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. And you stop in and see Kevin and Cindy. And don't forget, dry cleaning prolongs the life of your clothing. So stop in to the best. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley, please. I want to remind you, before we get into some very serious subjects this morning, that I talked to Jimmy Flowers earlier this morning, and the Mini-Cassia Auto Collectors are going to have their 31st annual car show at the Cassia County Fairgrounds in Burley on June 3rd and 4th. And we're going to have Jimmy on the air with us next week, and this is really quite a show. Don't miss this. They're going to have Corvettes, Mustangs, street rods, stock originals from 1900 to the present. Wow. I mean, that is a auto collector's dream. Mini-Cassia Auto Collectors Car Show at the Cassia County Fairgrounds, June 3rd and 4th. Want to also say thank you again to Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. And, of course, they open the doors at 7:30 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon, Monday through Friday, for all your heating, cooling, and electrical needs. And don't forget, we're almost ready with high going up into the 80s today, maybe to crank on that air conditioning, and you need new, clean air filters. Well, they've got them all for you right there at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-0459, where they always provide warm winters and cool summers. Beautiful day in the neighborhood. Get outside today and enjoy. I know I'm going to. Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. If you're hungry, why? I mean, stop in. They can help that problem. You know, breakfast, lunch, and dinner anytime, all the time at America's Diner. And I urge you to try one of the many new burgers they've got there. I had that Gouda burger the other day, and it's Gouda. It's very Gouda. You'll enjoy it, I'll guarantee you. Any of those burgers, excellent. And if you're like I am, I really favor breakfast, and they've got all the great breakfast menus at Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley, and also 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls, America's Diner. Today, and I might not make it through this without choking up a little bit, because this is really a tough story to talk about. Today is a very, very sad day for all people that want to live in peace with their families and enjoy their children as they grow up. You know, there is nothing, as a grandparent and as a parent, there is nothing. I just sat last weekend in a lawn chair and watched my son's children playing in the yard, 6 and 3. And there is nothing more refreshing than watching them play and run and have fun and come over and hug Grandpa, and watching them grow up like Toby's boys are growing up. Good heavens, they grew too fast. But many children in England, in Manchester, England, this morning, will not grow up. They were killed last night by a Satan-filled ideology that kills and slaughters because they hate. That's all these people do, is hate and kill and maim and destroy. At a music concert in Manchester, England last night, a ISIS suicide bomber blew himself up and killed 22 people, innocent people that were attending a music concert, and 59 were injured, some of which also may succumb to their injuries. And ISIS took the blame as an honor, a sick, perverted honor. Another possible accomplice to this sick, perverted suicide bomber, and I hope he resides in hell right now, Another accomplice was arrested this morning. This pathetic, sick, perverted, Islamic, jihadi attitude. And they said, they being ISIS, this is only the beginning of more terror attacks. These kids went to a concert last night. Their parents took them to this huge concert to enjoy the music. And by the way, 12 of the dead were 16 and under that never got back with their parents last evening. You know, if you can't see this as absolute evil, there is something wrong with you. These sick, pervert, and absolutely wrong people, I have to really carefully measure my words right now, because I'm afraid that something might slip out that really tells and gives you my feelings to the absolute evil that they conducted last night. Many terror experts agree that the mantra for these jihadis is kill the infidels, rule the world. But we are so naive in this country, including right here in this valley, that we can't see the forest because there's a tree standing in the way. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. You know, I think we're doing the wrong thing in the way we're attacking ISIS. I think we need to go after their synagogues, and we need to get their...
Well, first, whoa, Jerry, wait a minute. Jerry...
bombs in every one of them.
Jerry, wait a minute. You misspoke, and I want to make sure that the right language is used. It's not synagogues. Don't distinguish that with the Muslims. It's mosques.
Okay, mosques. I think we ought to be bombing every mosque, and we ought to be going after the leaders of the church, because them are the guys that are training these guys to go out and kill little kids.
All I'm going to say to you...
ridiculous to me.
Now, all I'm going to say to you, Jerry, is I'm not going to say that we need to start that kind of an action. I'm not advocating that right now. But hear me out before you interrupt me. I honestly think that there needs to be total information from within these mosques and these so-called mosque leaders to the police and other intelligence information sources. We need to find out who's saying what, who's doing what. I agree with you on that aspect.
Well, I think that that's the place we need to be attacking. It seems to be the thing that keeps them going and keeps the organization killing people, and that has their heinous beliefs of cutting heads off and hands and feet. I just think we need to go after the source instead of play around with the guy in the field.
I agree with that. I agree with that, Jerry, and thank you very much for your call. Always.
You bet. You have a great day. May the Lord bless.
God bless you, my friend. I want to make sure that the distinguishment on the term, it's Jewish synagogues and it's Islamic mosques. Please, let's be real careful about what we say and how it's said. Caller, I'll be right with you in a moment. Don't forget Barry Equipment and Rental, Sales, Service, Parts, and 3 locations in the Magic Valley to serve you. South Lincoln and Jerome, Addison Avenue West, Twin Falls, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. They do have all the equipment to get the job done right. They've got the Bobcat excavators, new and used excavators for sale or rent, all shapes and sizes. They've even got one for me, I'm sure. And don't forget, too, equipment rentals, retail equipment sales, and the Walker mowers. 0% interest for 48 months. Use and mow what the pros use, and that's, of course, Walker mowers. 0% interest for 48 months at Barry Equipment and Rental, Jerome, Twin Falls, and Burley. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
And it is a good morning.
Yes, sir.
You know, Zeb, the big problem that I have with these Muslims, one moved in next door to me. The first thing that would come to my mind is, when is he going to get the word? When is he going to start slaughtering his neighbors? And I've talked to my neighbors around here in this neighborhood, and they all feel the same way, that no matter how well they dress, how polite they seem to be, that's their method of getting you to walk around like you're unconscious and don't realize what's going on.
Well, you know, Tony, everybody in this country has a right to their opinion and the expressing of that opinion, and you just expressed yours. I agree with most of what you said. I get criticized as the talk show host by these liberal loons that live in this area, and they call me a bigot and a hate monger. But you know what, Tony? How dare they spread their hate by calling me a hate monger and a bigot when there are over 22 families this morning that are arranging funerals in Britain, and there are 59 other families that are trying to keep their family members alive, and hopefully they'll get better in the hospital. And so we're talking about 81 people that needlessly were hurt, maimed, and killed last night by a jihadi movement of ISIS with absolute evil and satanic absolute wants in this world to kill the infidels. I'm fed up with it.
You know, these jihadis know their greatest ally in this country are the millennials. And they're the ones that are going to fold up and cave in to these guys, and we're in deep trouble.
I knew a family back in Long Island, New York, and I've stated this story on my program before, where the father had a son that was a police officer that went into the buildings, one of the towers, on 911 and died. And I made it a promise to myself, knowing this gentleman and his family and knowing the circumstances, that at no time on this program would I weaken to the so-called liberal left calling me names when I know I'm right. And I'll tell you something. This horrible bombing that happened in Manchester, it could very easily happen here at any time.
Well, what's 9/11 was another Pearl Harbor for us, and why we haven't won this war is beyond me.
Well, when I sat there and I listened to the particulars about this bomb that went off, made up of nails and BBs, ball bearings and everything, and that bomb just maimed and tore the flesh and killed and destroyed, for what? What was the reason? And it's nothing more than a four-letter word, hate. That's all it is.
Well, so far they're taking over Europe, and it's going to happen here if we're not careful.
That's right. Tony, thank you for your call. God bless you, my dear friend. Thank you.
Bye.
I'm fed up with this, and I don't know why more people aren't saying this morning, okay, you want to bring the refugees in? We want to know every dadgum thing about these people. I want to know if they clean the lint out of their navel. I want to know how, if they've got athlete's foot. I want to know everything about them. Everything. If you want to leave the borders open, fine. Bring them in. We're going to send them back. We're going to get the police and jurisdiction of power on the border, and 10 times harder and tougher. What is the matter with protecting us, the citizens of this country? And these loons on the left, some of which live here in this valley, they haven't got the sense that God gave a billy goat. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. The number to call, 678-1191, helping you get back to being you. If you've had an accident, broke a bone, or maybe you worked too hard out in the yard and you're a little stiff and sore, now's the time to give them a call and let them help you with their physical therapist. 678-1191. That's the number to call. I urge you to do so today. 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Nick and the whole crew over there absolutely helping you get back to being you. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. 678-1191. And I really appreciate your calls this morning. I am just absolutely disgusted with our lackadaisical attitude in this country that was brought on primarily for the last 8 years. Everything goes, anything goes, who cares attitude from Obama. And now we've seen this thing permeate in our country, not to the extent that those poor families in Manchester, England, are sitting down with funeral directors this morning and planning funerals for children that should have got up this morning and went to school with a smile on their face saying, "Oh my, we had a wonderful time last night at that concert." That's never going to happen. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you also, Ag Express is looking for drivers. Ag Express is looking for you. That's right. They're needing some drivers, so why don't you give them a call right now? Call Dale and Paul at 438-8886, Allen in Twin Falls 731-2495, and Russ and Burley at 431-7175. Retired folks are welcome to apply, full and part-time positions, and you're home every night. Great vacation schedules and benefit programs. Ag Express is looking for drivers. Ag Express is looking for you. Caller, I'll be right there. Please stay with me. I want to remind you a huge annual Memorial Day sale is going on right now at Ritter Showcase. Hello, Guy Ritter. And boy, this is a dandy with the Serta Comfort mattresses. You want a good night's sleep? Oh my goodness. Incredible Memorial Day mattress savings at Ritter Showcase. You better stop in right now. Up to 12 months, same as cash on approved credit. Ritter Showcase annual Memorial Day sale, 2611 Overland in Burley. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, Zeb, the thing about the media and Europe and about last night's attack or yesterday's attack in England, Manchester, is that there's so much that is going on, the crime and the rape and the molestation and the literal beating of women if they're by themselves, and we hear nothing of it because whether or not it's our media here that is complicit in covering it up, including Fox, and then the European media, and you say to yourself, how do we, in our attempt to get what we think is going to be some sort of utopia, we ignore what happens to innocent people and innocent children, and you say, there is no excuse for this. There is a special place in hell for people that omit sins of omission. And I tell you, you say Europe is lost. Then the evac process is such a painful thing.
Well, wait a minute, Randy. Hold on a second. When I looked at that story last night unfold in Manchester, I thought of my children growing up. I thought of my daughter possibly going to a concert with other friends. Many, many, many thousands of parents took their kids to this concert. Many thousands of parents waited outside and went to maybe little bistros or restaurants or whatever while their kids were at this concert, knowing it was a good, clean, young adult concert, and all of a sudden, bang, a bomb goes off, and many parents and their families' lives changed in an instant. Why? Because these jihadis do nothing and are worth nothing than hate and kill, and they've got to be stopped, and they have to be killed.
They do. And you see, that's the only thing they understand, and their lives are such agony that they hate, and they're so envious and jealous of people that are free, but their minds are already damaged, and they know they can't free themselves of the thoughts that they have that go round and round in there. And so they want to take it out on the rest of us because, not for Allah, because they're miserable.
No, it's part of their ideology, Randy. Wait a minute. No, it's part of their ideology. Their ideology says they have to kill and maim in the name of Allah. That's their ideology. I'm not making it up. You can read the doggone thing yourself. I'm telling everybody in the audience, it's time to pull out the cork and stop being so politically correct. State the facts. That's part of their ideology.
Yes, you're right. But you see, they say it's their ideology, but in so many cases, I think that their lives are so miserable that they choose to die. And so, you see, there's no peace in this religion. There's people that are half-hearted at it, that it works for them, I guess.
Well,
but you see, the innocents are dead. They are dead.
Well, all I can say is this morning, I've got to get a commercial break in here, Randy, but I want to just say this before you hang up. Don't leave yet. You are a father of children, and I know that you love your kids and you've watched them grow, and you absolutely, you nourish them. You take care of them. They're so special to you, as mine are to me and my grandkids. And to think that 22 innocent kids, they did nothing wrong. They saved their pennies and dimes to go to this concert. And they're dead this morning because of an ideology that does nothing more than kill. Quick response.
And you know the bomb had nails in it, Zeb.
I said that.
Oh, my word. We don't even want to... Can you imagine being a parent going down there to identify your child?
Well, all I can say is this morning, my heart and prayers go out to those family, of all the persons and family members, both dead and injured. God bless every one of them. Randy, I got to run. Thank you so much.
Bye.
You know, nails, BBs, ball bearings, chips of metal, stuff in a bomb, for nothing more than hatred and killing. Some of the loons, and I'm not chuckling in a humorous fashion, some of the liberal loons, as I said, some here in this area, they will say that I'm a bigot and a hate monger. Maybe I am. Don't forget Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, and I urge you to get a hold of Dr. Christine Pickup at 312-0957, right across from the Minidoka Hospital Emergency Room, and she can and will help you with all your hearing problems. Call her, I'll be right there. Don't forget to please give her a call. It might be a hearing problem that's associated to a sickness, a disease, or maybe some medication. Please let her help, and she can. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, 312-0957. Please call her today. Don't forget Lennox, along with Ramsey Heating and Electric, offering up to $1,700 in rebates on all the home comfort systems that are qualified home comfort systems at Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox. Call them today at 678-0459. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
You know, this is for our Democratic friends. This message is strictly for them. You know, they want these open borders and everything else, but when it comes time for them to strike, they're going to strike them just as hard as they are us. And this deal of open borders, and I really admired President Trump for trying to shut down the immigration for now until we can get this sorted out.
Absolutely.
But
absolutely.
A good example is what's happened in England yesterday. You know, these people come in their borders and in and out and everything, and they claim to be jihadists, but they dress like you and I.
You know,
they're out to destroy us.
Well, Keith, all I can say is that what you said this morning is spot on. I agree with everything you said. But you know something? We can't just offer this problem lip service anymore. We have got to demand, underline that word demand, to the Crapos and the Rishes and the Simpsons and the Labradors and the Oval Office, everybody, enough is enough. It's going to come here. It's going to happen here more so than it has in the past. They have made a pledge, it was said last night, that they are just beginning. That's not my words, that's the words of the jihadis that said this is only the beginning. How would you like your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren to go to a musical concert? They're innocently enjoying the music, and that happens to you and your family. It's got to stop.
You're absolutely right. And I do believe that these jihadists are going to go more to the rural areas. A good example is Minnesota, where they have congregated, and they're literally taking over that state. Do you agree on that?
Oh, I totally agree with you. Minnesota right now is so screwed up in their thinking with a lack of leadership. The city of Minneapolis is nothing like it was when I was there, and I absolutely agree with you. Keith, I got to get another word in here, and I appreciate your call. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, buddy.
Have a good day.
Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know something, folks? Honestly, this isn't radio. This isn't theatrics. This is real life. This is happening. And could very easily, and I pray to God it won't, happen here. You know, we need to know everything, like I said a few moments ago, about anybody coming in here. I don't care if they feel inhibited because we're really scrutinizing them. Do you care? Really? Do you care? I don't. I want to know who they are. I want to know if they're going to assimilate and be proud and nurture their possibility of staying in this country and adhering to our heritage, our culture, and our Constitution. If they can't, get on a boat and leave. Don't forget JJ Quarter Horses production sale coming up on June 3rd under the big white tent at the Jed Jacobs Arena in Sugar City, Idaho. This is, as I said yesterday, an excellent sale for top rope horses, outstanding ranch horses, working cow horses, barrel racing horses. I'm telling you, the preview starts at 10 o'clock in the morning. Sale begins at noon. This is up in Sugar City, Idaho. The JJ Quarter Horses production sale. For more information, call Jed Jacobs at 390-4144 or Jade Stoddard at 308-3885. Absolutely some of the best quarter horse pedigrees in the industry at this JJ Quarter Horse sale, June 3rd in Sugar City, Idaho, and I urge horsemen to be in attendance. Also, our thanks go out this morning. Excuse me, I still can't get rid of that cough. I apologize. To K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 West of Heyburn. A lot of folks are going to stay home this weekend on Memorial Day. A lot of people are going to be doing some yard work. They're going to be doing some maybe renovation of their yards and their property. Well, you need tools. Well, I'll tell you what, K&R Rental has got all the tools. From forklifts to lawnmowers, I'll tell you, at 256 South, 600 West of Heyburn. They're open Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., Saturday, 7 to 2. You better believe K&R Rental in Heyburn serving you. I really can't understand on an open line talk show why more people aren't willing and ready to call in on their thoughts on this, because I think it's important that we hear from each other. Most all of us are parents or grandparents or even great-grandparents or getting married, going to have kids, etc. And last night I cried. I cried watching the show of, I shouldn't say show, I should say the so-called news of what was going on. And I saw these distraught parents waiting and wondering and praying and worrying again about whether their child was going to walk out, run out, or whatever out of that Coliseum. And then I watched some of the police officers find some of the parents and take them into rooms to let them know that their children were among the dead. It's just really a hard pill to swallow. When there was no reason for these children to die other than hatred. An ideology that hates our heritage and our culture and our lifestyle. And all they want to do is kill us. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. The Muslim religion worships a God who can will both good and evil. Now, their 99 names for God are all mercy and all these wonderful things, but he can also will evil. And that has got to corrupt their thinking. So we cannot believe that they worship the same God we do.
Well, there's no way in the world that happens or is even fathomable. Let me just interrupt here and say I refuse to use, because I know I'm right on this, the word God with their ideology and their religion, because God would never allow this kind of attitude to purvey itself upon children and kill them.
Absolutely not. It just, it's told that they like to make us think that they are all goodness and light, and they're not.
Linda, it's hard for me to talk about this subject this morning, and I just absolutely can't even fathom what these parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles and neighborhoods are going through this morning. Think about where you live. Linda, think about where you live and the surrounding network of people that assist you, help you, are your friends. They would do anything to help you. And put that situation and scenario of what happened in England last night in your own backyard, and just think of the grief and the suffering.
Gosh. Yeah. The absolute heartbreak, and yet we let this kind of thing continue and go on.
That's the whole point I'm getting at this morning. It has to stop now. It has to stop in a fashion to where we can obliterate these absolutely hateful, satanic people from the face of the earth. If we don't, you're going to have it in your backyard. Your relatives are going to have it in their circle of friends. It's going to happen.
We have to know what we believe, and we have to know what they believe and what we're fighting against.
Absolutely.
That we are fighting against it. God bless you.
Linda, thank you. You're a dear friend. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. That lady is, I just have the world of respect for Linda. She's just so talented and such a nice person. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Deb. I just want to weigh in and say, it is such a tragedy, and my husband went down to Salt Lake to watch some of the March Madness football games at I don't even know what they call it anymore. It used to be the Delta Center, and I don't know what it is now, but he had his pocket knife, and they had to go through, a metal detector, and it was an expensive pocket knife, so they wouldn't let him in, with his pocket knife, so he had to run it back to the vehicle, which was several blocks away. But I just, aside from what we know about the terrorists and all those type of things with what you're saying and how sad that is, I would I would be interested in knowing what kind of security they had, and I'd like to know from your listeners too. A long time ago, in fact, when my husband went down to the basketball game, I said to him, well, good luck. I said, you're a target. And it's amazing to me that we haven't had something like this at a Super Bowl or at the World Series, or, just where there's lots of people. And for me personally, I've kind of quit wanting to go to events where there's large crowds of people.
Well,
and so aside from the sadness of it and all the tragedy of it, which, is saddened all of us and made us feel so bad, I would kind of like to know what kind of security they had going. I would like to know from your listeners if they are nervous when they go to a movie theater. And I'm always looking where the exits are, and I'm always thinking to myself, if something goes on, get down, don't stand up. And I saw those kids piling out of there, and I was like, oh, you would be so much better if you just laid down on the floor and stayed still where your seat was. So I don't know. All those things scare me, and I'm not trying to go away actually from, the seriousness of the terrorist attack, but just the logistics of it.
Well, let me interrupt you and let me talk to you before you hang up. Don't hang up. I can tell you from some of the experts that I talked to earlier this morning on the telephone that Britain, of course, England, and Manchester and other big cities over in that country, they have some of the most sophisticated security cameras on surveillance on the streets, at buildings, etc. And they will go through, as a matter of fact, this morning, they are going through all the tapes and they are going to be able to pinpoint, that's how they found out the bomber's name, who he was, what he was dressed as, etc. Also, this bombing took place on an exit going out of the Coliseum. Normally, security is all geared for coming into the Coliseum. So it was reverse thinking at this bombing, and it absolutely has started another thought is, wait a minute, all they're in there, and they've got to come out, and that's where the mayhem started at the exits leaving. So it's a reverse psychology.
I just don't know what to say. I don't, and I've been to big events. I've been to concerts. I've been to sporting events. And I don't know. I don't know. The whole thing just changes how everybody thinks. And they are successful because they are scaring us. We do change our behavior because they are scaring us. So when they're scaring us, they have more control.
Right.
Like, all of those things are so disheartening to me.
Well, it's a very sorrowful morning, and my prayers go out to the family members of those not only injured, but those that have passed away in a heinous attack on humanity. Thank you so much for your call.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to comment quickly before I do the weather on what that lady said just a moment ago. For 45 years, I announced some of the largest venues of anywhere in the world. I announced at the Olympics in '96. I was there when the bomb went off. I have announced all the major venues, like I went to Spain and announced the World Equestrian Games. I've announced the National Finals Rodeo 6 times. I've announced all finals, equine finals in the world at least 3 times. And this morning there are great fears and trepidations that I look back on being in those huge venues, those huge coliseums. It could have happened to me. Weather forecast coming up next. Riverview Urgent Care at 382 North Overland in Burley, along with Twin Falls Urgent Care, 2392 Addison Avenue East in Twin, and Jerome Urgent Care, 133 West Avenue A in Jerome. Minor emergencies, major care. They will take care of you. The doctor will see you now, not in 4 or 5 days, and they are open 7 days a week. As I said, minor emergencies, major care at the Urgent Cares. Here's the weather.
It's going to be a beautiful day today. We're looking at sunny skies, high of 81 with an overnight low of 54. Make sure that you wear the sunscreen if you're going to be outside for tomorrow. Winds are going to be picking up out of the west, right around 21 miles an hour. Still going to be sunny, though. High of 73 with an overnight low of 43. Thursday, we're cooling off. Still going to be sunny. Winds are going to die down as well. High of 65 with an overnight low of 44. Then maybe some morning rain showers on Friday with a high of 66. That's your weather. Where's that at the ranch?
I appreciate it, Gina. Brought to you by the Urgent Cares, Kyle James and his excellent, very professional staff at 3 locations: Riverview Urgent Care in Burley, Twin Falls Urgent Care in Twin, and Jerome Urgent Care in Jerome. Minor emergencies, major care. Calls are welcome. And appreciated. So give me a jingle on the landline. Want to also remind you on Thursday we have a program called It's Time to Grow with a dear, dear friend, Tony McCammon, University of Idaho horticulturalist. And this week we're going to be talking about trees. He loves trees. And it's going to be interesting on Thursday at 9:15. It's Time to Grow with Tony McCammon. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. This story, this news of what happened last evening in Manchester, England, it's not going to go away anytime soon, nor should it. I think that right now, as I said earlier in our conversation, we need to know everything. Every single thing on a file, a list, a complete resume about anybody and everybody coming in here in this area. I don't care if the refugees or the refugee center or CSI or anybody else, we know plenty. No, you don't. And it's been stated by many more professional people than you that we don't know. And we had a kind of a slipshod operation in finding out who these people are. I want to know everything, and we deserve to know. And then as far as our borders are concerned, many of the people that know far more about border security than you and I have said, our borders are like Swiss cheese, and we have no idea from South to Central America, Mexico, or even points further of people coming in here that want to create little dynasties and also jihad methods against us and our government. Close the doggone borders down. This talk by the stupid, absolutely liberal loons of the Democratic Party saying, well, we can't do this. They want more votes. Close the borders down. We are the only country in the world that's allowing this kind of mess to happen. Just try going into other countries and skipping across the border and watching and seeing what's going to happen next. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. A little homework for you today. Listen to your neighbors today and see what they're talking about. Listen to some of your friends that might be of a liberal persuasion and how possibly they listened to me this morning and are condemning and cursing and yelling and screaming at me, calling me a right-wing nut, while at the same time these families in England are planning funerals. And 59 other families are sitting at bedsides this morning, hoping and praying and begging for the surgeons to try to repair the facial aspects or maybe a limb that's been torn off, all because of hate. I want to say thank you very much to our Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, our major sponsor of our program, where they always do the right thing because it matters to them, and it should matter to you. Absolutely. They've got the best of tires, the safest of tires for your pickup and SUV, your passenger cars, and they offer a free pre-trip safety check. So listen, before you take off to see Aunt Martha and Uncle Fred, make sure you stop in and see your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. They really care. They've got the best of brake service. They've got the best of shocks and struts and front end alignments and batteries, and of course, all the tires for your particular driving. So please don't go anywhere until you stop in there at any one of the 7 locations. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. The best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. You know, Donald Trump, our president, went to Israel, and I watched almost all of what took place in Israel, and he left there this morning, and I quit watching with a feeling of, I had to get on this program. I don't mean I quit for any other reason. But I left with the feeling after I watched the broadcast of the speeches, etc., that man and the leadership of Israel, they really tightened the bond between our two countries. Great success by President Trump on that trip to Israel and the Middle East. And to the naysayers, go in the corner and cry like little babies. That's what you are. We're going to take a little break right now, and in a moment send it over to Wheels at our main studio. Coming up at 9:06, we've got a gentleman that was on not too many days ago. Ed Brodaw is going to be on the program talking about the mainstream media garbage. And then at 9:30, a gentleman that's a former AP war correspondent celebrating May Military Month, Bob Dvorak, Dr. History at 10:06, and Liberty McCarter at 10:32. Great lineup. Thank you for listening. Zeb at the Ranch, I'll be back in about 7 minutes. Wheels, take it away. Welcome back. Zeb at the Ranch on a Tuesday, and a beautiful day it is. And, of course, Zeb at the Ranch brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and also some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this free land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal.
Western Waste Services, don't forget they've got the dumpsters in various sizes. Fill them up, have them drop them off at your place, fill them up, and then have them come and get them. I'll tell you what, you can clean out anything, the basement, maybe my office or the garage or whatever. You be sure and call them today at 734-6969. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. You be sure and call them today. On Mondays at 9:15, we're blessed to have lovely Miss Vicky of Vicky's Country Gardens come on and talk about gardening and what to do, what not to do, how to make everything grow. So don't forget, that's at 9:15 on Mondays, Vicky's Country Garden. And, of course, they're located at 185 South, 600 West of Paul. Don't forget to tune in for that great program. Wheels, did you have something for me? Evidently he's gone. Let's go ahead and tell everybody, too, about our friends at Ark Animal Hospital. Oh, my goodness, 750 21st Street in Heyburn. And they do have the warm hearts for the cold noses. I want to urge you to take your dogs and puppies in there and get them vaccinated for the highly contagious, deadly viral infection called parvovirus. Parvovirus, it can kill. So please take your dogs in there, get them vaccinated. Dr. Bill, Dr. Liz, the whole crew really, really care at Ark Animal Hospital. 750 21st Street in Heyburn. Here's the number, 678-1177. 678-1177. Ark Animal Hospital. Yep. Warm hearts for cold noses. And before we go to our guest, stand by, Ed. I'm coming. I want to remind everybody, too, about our dear friends, and they are your friends at Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, with Joel Heward, the manager, his family, and his staff. And they can and will travel to rural towns and churches to help you and your family with all the arrangements when there's the passing of a loved one. And remember, always upholding the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Please write this number down, 436-5636. 436-5636. They care and they will help. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Well, I'm very honored. I had this gentleman on my program a couple of weeks ago, and I told him on the air that I was going to have him back. I have a lot of respect for him. He's United States Marine Corps retired, author of a brand new book called In Lies We Trust, How Politicians and the Media Are Deceiving the American Public. Good morning to Mr. Ed Brodaw. How are you, sir?
Just
terrific. How about you?
Not bad. Ed, before we get into the subject at hand this morning about the media, I want your opinion and your attitude and your thoughts over the heinous, absolutely disgusting, inhumane event that happened last night in Manchester, England, when 22 innocent kids were slaughtered by ISIS and a terrorist bomb. What are your thoughts about this?
It confirms everything that I've been saying about this terrorist problem, that it is a problem with Islam, that Islam is a totalitarian, ideological, political process that has as its objective the destruction of the West and of Western values. They're out to kill us, and this is just another example of it.
Ed, why in the world are we, and you probably live in an area where you can say the same about your neighbors and perhaps the city council or wherever, why are we so doggone naive about this when it's an encroachment on human decency and human lives, and we just kind of turn the other cheek and say, come see, come saw? Why are we so doggone naive?
It has to do with this attitude that we are compassionate, freedom-loving Americans who want to bring peace to the world, blah, blah, blah. It blinds us to the reality. The reality is, as I said, that these people want to kill us. There's no in-between there. This is a war that's going on. But even what amazes me is that even after 9/11, we're still going on with this compassionate nonsense. I mean, we got to defend ourselves. And it just amazes me that the President of the United States, finally we have a president who wants to protect the public by limiting the influx from these countries in the Middle East, and he's getting all this pushback. People, say, "Oh, it's fascistic. It's not right." It's absurd, really absurd, and it offends me because we need to protect the homeland.
If someone were to ask me this morning, Ed, and pardon me, my temper and my attitude is very negative this morning, thinking about 22 families over in England that are planning burial services for their children. If someone were to ask me if I cared one little iota about political correctness today, about the refugees coming in here and the lack of information, or we need to know more about them, I couldn't care less. I want all the information on how many times they brush their teeth per day because we need to know. What are your thoughts?
Well, I don't know if you noticed a few weeks ago when the fellow ran his car up to the
yes.
House of Parliament in London.
Yes.
The reaction of Theresa May, the Prime Minister of the UK, was to say that, well, Islam is really a wonderful religion. That was the reaction. It's as though they just don't want to believe the truth. They don't want to accept the truth, which is that it is not a religion. It's a murder cult that is bent on killing us.
And most Americans, including some of the naivete that's been displayed by local council and various other leaders in the community right here in Magic Valley, they just don't seem to understand that this is an ideology that absolutely wants total power to kill the infidels and rule the world. Do you think I'm very off base when I say something like that, Ed?
No, that's exactly what I say in my book. In Lies We Trust. I have a whole chapter on that, and everybody should read the chapter in my book if they want to find out what the truth is. Because the government under Obama was hiding the truth from us, was lying to us about all of this. But it's coming out now, and they need to read Chapter 7 in Lies We Trust, which is all about the truth about Islamic terrorism and what we're facing.
Ed, where did the media, in your opinion, where did they go so soft on simple issues like right and wrong, black and white. Why in the world did they always try to conflate the issue and turn it into a liberal left swing? Where did this all happen and why?
It happened over the last 30 years. It used to be that the media saw their function as guardians of the truth. And their objective was to be objective in reporting the news. Today, they feel that their objective is to disseminate their leftist point of view. It's become almost like a religion. They feel that they need to proselytize the rest of us. So, in terms of right and wrong, in their concept of right or wrong, what's right is for them to try to brainwash all of us. That's what they're doing.
I don't understand why we're letting this happen, though, and pardon my naivete on this issue. I guess I'm displaying it. But why in the world are we putting up with this garbage? Why are we allowing it to happen? Why are we allowing the distortion of the news instead of presenting it in a clear-cut fashion as to really what happened and why? The American public should be outraged over this.
Well, they should be. But the first chapter of my book is called Gullible. We are too bloody gullible. We tend to believe everything that we read in the paper or hear on the TV news. And that has to stop. People have to stop believing everything that they're told.
When you use the word gullible, you know, that's a good terminology right there. But when I went to college, and of course I'm an old man now, that was when they still circled the wagons at night for protection. But when I went to school, I was always saying, why? Why is this? Are we not questioning what's going on anymore? Are we that dumbed down that we can't ask what's going on?
Well, you're right. We're not. The colleges are not teaching them how to think anymore. They're teaching the kids to march in step to their leftist ideology. Almost all the professors in colleges and universities right now are leftist. In some cases, it's 20 and 30 to 1 in the faculty of left to right. So the students are being brainwashed. And in college, if you don't fall in line, you know, you get lousy grades. So the kids are all being forced to accept a leftist point of view.
Ed, I want you to comment a little bit, and I know you follow this, but I watched with great diligence Donald Trump and his lovely wife on their trip to Saudi Arabia. I watched with great diligence everything that happened in Israel with Benjamin Netanyahu and going to various locations. I listened to all the speeches, and I saw a very tight bond being even tighter between Israel and the United States. I saw a president that acted extremely presidential, and yet the media is coming out and they are damning Trump. They are asking for impeachment. They're following along with the Schumers and the rest of these people to absolutely be a dog nagging at his heels. What's going on in our media? Why can't they accept the fact that he's president? And, quite frankly, I think he's doing a pretty good job.
I agree with you. The media doesn't want to accept the fact that they lost the election. They also are, you talk about circling the wagons, they're circling the wagons around Obama and Hillary Clinton, both of whom were guilty of a variety of transgressions. And all of these attacks on Trump and the attempts to bring him down are their efforts to take the focus away from what happened with Obama and Hillary Clinton. I'm hoping that with Sessions now as Attorney General, that we will get to a point where these people can be brought to trial. Because what they did to this country was criminal. And the lies that are being spread about Trump right now are in service of that agenda.
You know, Ed, I read in your bio, and I want you to explain this a little bit, that many people have given you a very high praise as being the king of negotiators. Well, okay, let's start from that point and talk about what you do and also what Donald Trump does. I noticed a lot of the verbiage that was coming out of the trip to Saudi Arabia and also Israel, that many news people that weren't as biased as some were saying that Donald Donald Trump really put Iran's ear to attention because they were condemning Iran, saying that the treaty was a joke and they're going to make a lot of changes. What about Trump as a negotiator? And if you were to trade places with him, what would you do?
I would do what he's doing. I would do exactly what he's doing. In terms of negotiation, the biggest farce that was played out during the last 8 years was the agreement that Obama reached with the Iranians, in which we gave up everything and we got nothing in return. You know, negotiation is a basic principle that when you make a concession, you have to get another concession in return. And Obama violated that rule, because when we gave up all the sanctions, what did we get back from that? They are now in a position to have a bomb. And that's what Obama swore would never happen. But that's exactly what that deal is going to result in. And the challenge for Trump right now is how to reverse all of that. It's going to be very interesting to see how that works out.
You have followed the man, you've watched him, and you've probably written about him, studied him. A businessman, a man that has been basically at the top of the totem pole and is not accustomed to taking orders or, quite frankly, advice. I got to tell you that I thought he was pretty hard-calloused, and I thought that perhaps it may be a problem with his personality. But little by little, day by day, I am really coming to appreciate that this man is not going to take guff. He's not going to bow to anybody. He has the United States interest at heart and our Constitution, but the liberals, they are writhing on the floor. They can't stand this.
No, it bothers me that Trump is not given credit for his attributes, his positive attributes. I mean, just look at what he did in the election. And the primaries, the defeat, what were there, 17 of them running? I mean, it was unbelievable what he did. Someone from the outside, a non-politician, to achieve something like that, and then to win the election. I mean, this man is really quite amazing. He has amazing resources. I compare him to Churchill. Churchill was the man they needed in Britain in 1940. And Trump is the man we need here in 2017.
What about the left, though? The Democrats, the Schumers, and everyone else that is leading a charge, Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters, impeach, impeach, impeach. They don't think about anything other than just getting rid of the man. How are we ever going to overcome that in the 4 years of Trump being in presidency?
Well, it's going to be overcome because all of these accusations that have been leveled against Trump are false. And that will come out, I believe, in the next 6 months. A lot of facts. For example, this Russian business, the Russian collusion thing. That's a joke. That's a complete farce, and that is going to be made clear to the public. So I think what the Democrats are doing is really shooting themselves in the foot. They're making themselves obsolete. People are starting to understand that the Democrats have nothing to offer except a lot of negativity.
In regards to the investigation with a private investigating firm, if you will, led by Robert Mueller, ex-FBI head, what are your thoughts knowing that he was very, very good friends and still is with James Comey? Is that kind of a fly in the milk?
Well, it all worries me. The whole thing worries me, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I'm hoping that Mueller will be objective about this. I think Comey's a very dangerous person, and I also think that Trump figured that out, and that's why he fired him when he was out of town, so that they could go in and seize all of Comey's records. They've got all his files, so I think that Comey will be neutralized.
You know, when you talk about your book, In Lies We Trust, how politicians and the media are deceiving the American public, explain to me, Ed, I haven't had a chance to read your book yet, but is every chapter devoted to another negative created by the liberal left? Give us a little explanation of the book.
Well, first of all, I describe how they are lying to us. And I describe the different techniques that are used by the media to lie to us. Then I give examples of lies from presidents going all the way back to Reagan and Nixon, showing all the lies, that one lie after another. Then I take the issues and I go issue by issue and show how we've been lied to. For example, how we've been lied to about health care, how we've been lied to about Islamic terrorism, how we've been lied to about climate change. And I describe the lies, then I tell the truth, and I provide evidence for the truth. So people need to read my book if they really want to find out the truth about what's happening today.
You know, I really do want to get a copy of that book as soon as I can and read it. And one thing that really piqued my interest is I have been combating global warming and climate change, and basically I think it's nothing more than the liberal left using a 7-letter word called control. What are your thoughts? Do you agree with me that it's just another means for the left to control people?
Yeah. Obama pushed that agenda for 2 reasons. One is the one you just stated, that it's a way of having more government, bigger government. And that's what Obama was in for. The left wants bigger government because the more government you have, the less there is of individual freedom. So they're looking for more government. The other side of it is this globalism thing. Obama was in favor of globalism. The UN wants globalism, which is another way of saying we give up our sovereignty. We surrender our sovereignty to a bunch of unelected bureaucrats who will tell us what to do. And the whole issue of global warming was really a ruse to get us to buy into this globalist ideology, which is, you know, if we did what they want us to do, it would absolutely ruin the United States economy. And I explain all that in my book.
Absolutely.
You got to read the chapter in my book about global warming because I lay this whole thing out. I mean, I present all the evidence that this is the biggest hoax that we've seen in years.
You and I are on the same page. I agree with you. Quickly, Ed, tell everybody where they can read the book, buy the book, In Lies We Trust.
Best place to buy it is on Amazon. And it's In Lies We Trust, How Politicians and the Media are Deceiving the American Public.
Well, I certainly want to tell you how much I appreciate having you on the program. I hope you enjoyed being here, and we'll come back again in the future. Ed, thanks so much, and God bless.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ed Brodow, and a great book, and I can't wait to read it. In Lies We Trust, How Politicians and the Media are Deceiving the American Public. Oh, my. Let's go. I got to get some good words in here real quick. Don't forget Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox are teamed up, offering up to $1,700 in rebates on qualifying new Lennox home comfort systems that can keep your home feeling perfect on the inside no matter what's happening outside. Call Ramsey Heating and Electric today at 678-0459 and find out more. Absolutely. Hey, there's good things going on with Guy Redder and the crew over at Redder Showcase. It's time for the annual Memorial Day sale at 2611 Overland and Burley, Redder Showcase. Oh my, listen to the great mattress buys they've got. I mean to tell you, hurry in for incredible Memorial Day mattress savings on Serta. They've got all the Serta mattresses. My goodness sakes, you better stop in. You need a good night's sleep? This is the place to go. With up to 12 months, same as cash on approved credit, Redder Showcase. Great folks at 2611 Overland and Burley. You stop in and see them today. Hello, Guy. How you doing? Hey, don't forget, too, in just a moment, we're going to have Bob Dvorak with us, and he's a former AP war correspondent. And May is Military Appreciation Month, and we're going to have him on the air in just a moment. Cameron Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Hello, folks. How you doing? They have done so much work for me, and I really appreciate their job. They're dedicated and responsive to all of your needs and very accessible. All you need to do is call and make an appointment, 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, all of this and more. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. And over in the same neck of the woods, some really good folks where the fun is sold. Who am I talking about? I'll tell you. Let's ride. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. The number to call, 436-4771. They are open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays 9 to 4. Why should you go in there? Because they've got all the four-wheelers. They've got all the side-by-sides. They've got all the watercrafts. Wow! Fun outside? Darn betcha. You better get over there and check it out. Let's ride 270 Highway 24 in Rupert, where the fun is sold. Really, really good folks. Right now, I had this gentleman on the program, I think about 2 weeks ago, and he very much impressed me with his writing skills and speaking skills, and he's a veteran war correspondent and author with the book Drive On, The Uncensored War of Bedouin Bob and the All-Americans. Bob Dvorak, how are you this morning?
Never better. Good to be here.
You know, it's good to have you back on the program. You impressed me the last time. Really a straightforward, hard-charging guy. And May is Military Appreciation Month, and I'll bet you with your experiences, you can maybe make even the hardcore person kind of stand up and be proud of the United States of America.
Well, I sure will try, because in my time over there, I interacted with every branch of the service, the Navy, the Marines, the Air Force, the Army, and, of course, I hooked up with the 82nd Airborne Division, Airborne Infantry. And when you see, we hear about these young men and women in uniform who are out there on that line for us, but then when you see them in action and you're just so impressed with the grace under pressure, the commitment, the resolve, it's incredible. Hey, I did want to ask you one question, if I could.
Certainly.
Your call letters are KBAR?
Yes.
That's the name the Marines give their the long knives, the K-bar knives, the tip of the K-bar. So you're right there on the cutting edge with that.
Well, I'm honored to have you bring that up this morning, Bob. You know, I wanted to ask you the last time, and I don't know if I did or not, so if I'm repeating myself, I apologize. But why in the world would anybody want to be a war correspondent on the front lines, literally laying in the foxholes with everybody else? What in the world possessed you to try to get into that line of work, if you will?
Well, that's a question I've asked myself a lot. And I remember when I encountered one infantry company, and the company commander, captain, greeted me, and he said, well, if you're crazy enough to be out here, we're crazy enough to take you in. So you keep that in mind about the mental stability of myself as I went into this line of work. But what happened was I was a national writer for the Associated Press based in New York City. And when a big story happened, they would tap me on the shoulder and say, go catch the first plane out. I happened to get assigned to Saudi Arabia to cover the build-up to the war, and it sort of was like just a progression. Every time I took a step, or every day I went deeper and deeper into this until I went in on the other side. So it's sort of like you get swept up in this thing, and it just takes you where you want to go. And where I went, if I wanted to write about war, I was going to write about it, get as close to it as I could, and that's how I ended up with this Airborne Infantry Regiment. Maybe this will help. There's a sign here at Fort Bragg, and I'm down for All-American Week, and it said, for those who jump, no explanation is necessary, and for those who don't, no explanation is possible. It's a unique breed.
Absolutely. You know, Bob, the way you paint this picture, and I'd like you to elaborate on it a little bit, a gentleman like yourself, as a journalist, you really can't have any ties. You can't plan on going out to supper on a Thursday night. You can't plan for a golf match on Saturday morning. You're at the whim and call of your boss to go anywhere in the world. Is that right?
Well, that's right. Yeah, and that was by my choice. I wanted to do it. In my profession, that was the very top of the food chain, and I guess you can't do that for very long because you get exposed to so much in the way of hurricanes and tornadoes and train wrecks and plane crashes, and you do see the most, say, miserable of circumstances. But I will say this, that nothing that I just described even comes close to being what it was like to be involved in a war.
Let me ask you this question then. You have so much passion in your voice for what you have done and what you have lived. Without taking anything away from your book, why don't you give my audience a little feel for what it's like to be a war correspondent right there in the middle of things?
Okay, yeah, that's. Let me paint a scene for you. When you crawl out of your sleeping bag in the morning, the first thing you do is shake out your boots to make sure no scorpions or vipers or adders crawled in. You brush your teeth out of a canteen cup and shave out of the same water. You grab maybe a cold spaghetti MRE for breakfast. Put on the flak jacket, the Kevlar combat helmet. Strap your gas mask to your thigh, and you're good to go.
And then to go where? That would be the question. I mean, you're right in harm's way, aren't you?
Well, yes, and the way it worked out with this, and we went on a reverse cycle. We holed up during the day, just to keep a low profile, and did our work under cover of darkness. So creeping out into the desert to lay a communications wire with armed patrols, paratroopers locked and loaded, with orders to shoot to kill, or a night ambush, just laying in wait all night in case the enemy wanted to come in and check out where we were, or maybe just witnessing an artillery strike, outgoing rounds. That was all part of the day-to-day life of being out there with the airborne infantry.
Bob, if you had the power today to somehow put together a video or seminars or whatever that you could speak to the younger millennial generation in this country today, to let them know in no uncertain terms what war and the military is really like and how our military people are putting their lives on the line for our freedoms, what would you do?
Well, I think the message I would try to convey, and if for anyone who wants to volunteer to join the military and put themselves out there at risk in uniform to defend this country and to defend us, I say, great. I really respect that, admire really your decision. But know this, that you go out on these great adventures, and at some point there comes a time where you have to confront yourself, and you have that epiphany that what you're doing is very dangerous work. It's essential work, and it's necessary work, but there is danger involved, and that you're going to come back changed somehow, that it leaves an indelible mark, and that the change that happens within is something you're going to have to live with for the rest of your life. But, I talked to, had a reunion last night with some of my infantry buddies who insist that if they had the chance to do it all over again tomorrow, that's exactly what they would do. That's how committed and resolute they are to their task. So it's a double-edged sword. Yes, it's essential and it's necessary, but there's so much risk and danger involved that it's going to change you.
To be very frank and honest, Bob, you mentioned personality changes, and I think in my life I've had a couple of instances that have changed me. Were there instances that you noticed when you look in the mirror and you're shaving in the morning that you can say you've had those changes yourself?
Oh, absolutely, and I can point to one specific example, if I may. and that was the day we invaded Iraq, and this was ahead of the main ground invasion. So, the 82nd Airborne is there to make sure the road is open. And I remember the only shelter I could have that night, because there was no time to pitch a tent or anything else, you dig that hole in the ground, long enough, wide enough, and deep enough to get you under cover, and you stack all the dirt on one side to give you a little protection. Maybe if there's an incoming round, it'll absorb some shrapnel. If you take a direct hit, however, there's nothing they can do, but all they have to do is shovel the dirt back on top of you because you dug your own hasty grave. I can tell you that I had a conversation with the Almighty that night. I made peace with myself, and then in a moment, as much as I could mentally, to say goodbye to my mother and my brothers and sisters, and you do not come out of the hole the same person, even if you come out unscathed. And that's the one that sticks with me, because that changed my life forever.
May is Military Appreciation Month. And, Bob, what are your thoughts about what we, as a population of this great United States, what can we do? What should we do to appreciate more of what our military is doing?
A great question. And the thing is, the way it's set up now, we have 1%, less than 1% of the population in the all-volunteer military that's taking care of the 99%. And I think the 99% get so distracted or just so disconnected and caught up in their daily lives that they almost, they too seldom think about the ones who are out there. Maybe they don't know exactly how dangerous it is and what risks they're taking on our behalf. And I would just implore everyone to just take a minute, especially with Memorial Day coming up. How many people lost their lives while serving their country, while wearing that uniform? And, they have hopes and dreams. They had hopes and dreams just like we all do, only theirs ended. And to pause, to remember them, to appreciate them, to thank them in some small way, I think does everyone a lot of good. And I think, just at some point every day, I do myself every day is Military Appreciation Day for me, where I take note of what other people are doing on my behalf, because they're flesh and blood human beings just like you and me. They come from small towns you never heard of, or the big cities, and if you knew them and met them like I did, you would. I say eternal respect, but that doesn't cut it. The respect is love with battle dress utilities. I love these people. They're just incredible.
We have a caller with a question for you, Bob, so stand by. Caller, go ahead, please. You're on the air.
Well, one of the things about appreciating our soldiers is that, if we're not doing everything to save their lives and protect them as they go out willingly, as they volunteer, and let's face it, they're not getting rich. And in the last administration, this is my opinion, the rules of engagement, and that hasn't been cleaned up yet, were so terrible that if you were to go back and look at all the things that happened to good soldiers, whether or not they're men or women, and how they suffered so dearly because of this rules of engagement, you just want to scream bloody murder.
Yeah.
And you want to get it solved. And see, these things shouldn't happen to these heroes. I'll hang up.
Bob, would you respond to the caller, please?
Well, the caller makes a good point. I mean, in the war I was involved in, Desert Storm, the first Gulf War, the strategy was to use overwhelming force to avoid war at all costs, but if it's absolutely necessary, then you use everything you have in the arsenal to get it over with as quickly as possible to spare lives not only on our side, but on the other side, too. It's a moral issue. And I do agree that I think we've gotten away from that somehow, that we're not all in on this thing. And I really do think it ties into the questions you asked before. What can we do to appreciate these people if they don't have our full support? If we're not 100% committed to it, then why are we there? Why are we doing these kinds of things? And if we are 100% committed to it, the entire country should be involved in it, because soldiers can fight wars, but it's the American public that actually wins them, because if they give the support, they give their prayers and wishes, and it goes with them. So yeah, if you're, it's a serious business. You try to avoid it at all costs, but if you have to, it's absolutely necessary, then do it with this overwhelming force. We have the most powerful military in the history of the world. We shouldn't be doing things in dribs and drabs with all kinds of restraints and restrictions. I hear horror stories of there might be 4 guys in a Humvee, but only one has a loaded rifle because there's not enough ammunition to go around. How can that happen?
Bob, let me ask you one last thought on this. And I'm not sure if I'm even correct in assuming that perhaps the re-implementation of the draft would be a good thing. But I look at the millennial generation of many of these young people standing on street corners, lighting firecrackers, and also setting flames to Molotov cocktails. And I wonder if they really had an appreciation of what this country is and stands for, maybe by being drafted to serve our country for a 2-year period. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I always thought, and I was, I had the last lottery number called in the last draft ever held, so I know what it's like to be conscripted into the Army, and it was an experience I'll never forget. But, and not everybody's fit for military duty, but I really think there should be some kind of national service to give everybody, the millennials, the younger generation, a sense of, we are one country. This is America. You hear stories that they're not being taught history in school anymore, or very sanitized versions of history, and there is no way possible for them to be able to appreciate what what my father did in World War II, or my brother did in Vietnam, and what I witnessed in Desert Storm. I do think that disconnect comes into play again with some kind of either, and I don't think they're ever going to come back to a draft, but some kind of national service. I think you really do implement that appreciation for what this country is, what it stands for, and the ideals that we should be striving for every day.
Absolutely a very interesting gentleman. I've enjoyed having him on again, Bob Dvorak, and he's a veteran war correspondent and author of his recent book, Drive On, The Uncensored War, of Bedouin Bob and the All-Americans. Bob, you got a promise to come back in the future. God bless you, man.
I will, and if I could get a real quick pitch in for somebody from Idaho. He was a PFC when I met him 26 years ago during the war. His name is Jerry Henderson from Caldwell, Idaho. Yesterday he was a command sergeant major of a battalion, a psychological operations battalion, airborne, highest enlisted rank in the Army. I'm just so proud of this young man, as proud as I could be of a little brother. Jerry Henderson from Caldwell, Idaho.
Well, listen, let me tell you, anytime you want to have that kind of information on my program, absolutely. Bob, God blessings to you, and thank you so much.
Thank you, and have a great day.
Oh, that's right. Thank you, sir. I enjoy that, man, and you can just hear in his voice his pride in what he has done and how he has served this country and the others that serve our country, our United States military. Time for the weather, and then I'll take some more calls. And the weather brought to you by Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company, providing accounting services to the Mini-Cash area for well over 50 years with the best of tax return preparation, tax planning, assistance with IRS communications, financial statement preparation, retirement planning, all of this and so much more. They're very proud of our agricultural-based community, community, and strive to serve all of us. So thank you very much to Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company, CPAs, with offices in Burley and Rupert. And right now, here's the weather.
It's going to be a beautiful day today. We're looking at sunny skies, high of 81 with an overnight low of 54. Make sure that you wear the sunscreen if you're going to be outside for tomorrow. Winds are going to be picking up out of the west, right around 21 miles an hour. Still going to be sunny, though. High of 73 with an overnight low of 43. Thursday, we're cooling off. Still going to be sunny. Winds are going to die down as well. High of 65 with an overnight low of 44. Then maybe some morning rain showers on Friday with a high of 66. That's your weather.
No, she does a great job. Gina, I'm proud of what you do on the weather forecast. Thank you very much. And so are the folks at Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. And I'll tell you what, they're specialists in agriculture, manufacturing, food production, and services and construction. They can help you, and they will. With the best of CPA accounting services to the Mini-Cash area, as I said, for well over 50 years. Offices at 1710 Overland Avenue in Burley and 620 5th Street in Rupert. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. I would love to visit with you. I'm so incensed and teed off this morning, as I said in the first hour. And then I read this. A so-called pathetic journalist, a freelance writer who has written for CBS and other organizations, David Levitt, came out and posted a joke. I got to watch my language. I am absolutely so mad. I'd like to grab this guy by the shirt collar and just really give him a personality adjustment. He posted a joke about the deaths and the maiming and the injuries that took place last night in Manchester, England. I read the joke. Actually, he posted two of them. And I will not repeat them on my program. Maybe other talk show hosts will, but I won't. All I can say is that I hope this man loses his job. I hope he loses his income. And I hope he loses his sick, perverted, so-called sense of humor. When children died last night, and people were maimed, losing arms and legs and their faces, and then an idiot, Boston, Massachusetts-based freelance writer makes jokes about the concert and the bombing, these kind of absolute idiots need to suffer. There was nothing funny about what happened last evening. This is a detestable human being that needs to suffer the consequences. Let's not forget our dear friends over at Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center at 924 Christian Way in Rupert. The number to call and remember, 436-3200. You know, they make every effort to make Autumn Haven the best place, and they cordially invite the public to visit the facility anytime. Well, I'll tell you what, your loved one, if they're living there, will absolutely have a great time with the beautiful patio in the backyard, many, many barbecues outside during the summertime. Residents go to many community events all over the area. Absolutely call today. 436-3200. Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center, 924 Christian Way in Rupert. They're small compared to some, but with a bigger heart than most. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to tell you, too, that coming up next hour at 10:06, we've got the one, the only, Dr. History coming on the program. And then at 10:32, Liberty McCarter is going to be on our program. She writes for The Stream and very, very interesting young lady, so I'm looking forward to that. Also want to take some time right now to tell you what's going on over at Redder's Showcase, and then I'll take some of your calls. Guy Redder and the crew say, come on in, come on in. It's time for our annual sale, our annual Memorial Day sale. Oh, my goodness. And they have great buys on Serta mattresses and box springs. And listen to this, up to 12 months, same as cash on approved credit. You better not run. You better just gallop on over there to Redder's Showcase, 2611 Overland in Burley, or give them a call, 878-2000. Guy Redder and the crew with their annual Memorial Day sale. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Well, good morning, Mr. Bell. I'm just going to take a second of your time. I wanted to thank you for your program today. I really enjoyed Robert's segment. Thank you for everything you do for, keeping our veterans and our first responders and, our heroes here at home out in the forefront. And I want to invite everybody to the program we have this weekend at the Rupert Memorial. It is, bar none, one of the finest ceremonies you will ever want to watch. It's very emotional, very solemn, but it's to remember all of our fallen comrades and brothers, fathers, sons, uncles, aunts, mothers, for their service. And just to appreciate the freedoms that we have because of their sacrifice.
I agree with you. And that's coming up this Saturday, the 27th. Unfortunately, it'll be the first year that I'll miss the ceremony. I'll be out of town. And, Donna, I urge everybody to be in attendance. You're going to have the motorcycle ride early in the morning, starting at Let's Ride at 9:30, and then at 1 o'clock, the Idaho Roll Call Monument ceremony at 1 p.m.
Yes, sir, and there is nothing finer than listening and feeling those bikers come around.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Rev up those Harleys. Oh, just gives you goosebumps.
Donna,
thank you, Zeb, for everything that you do for our communities and for our country.
Well, God bless.
Because you weren't able to go into the service doesn't mean you're not a hero.
I appreciate that.
We need heroes at home, too.
Thank you, Donna. You and George mean so much to me. And dear, dear friends, God bless you and thank you so much.
You betcha. Have a good day, my friend.
Thank you. Wonderful people. Wonderful people. Wow. Dr. History just walked in the door, and that means we laid out the red carpet. He is now striding forward with his great big wand. He's going to touch me on the shoulder and probably turn me into a frog. Anyway, he's going to be coming up next half hour, Dr. History, and then at 10:30, Liberty McCarter. Zeb at the Ranch, we're going to take a break for about 7 minutes. I'll be right back. Oh, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, and Mr. Rogers took his sweater off, and he took his sneakers off. Woo! Put your shoes back on. Anyway, good morning, everybody. Zeb at the Ranch, Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, like Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call them at 734-6969. Dr. History will be here in just a moment. Don't forget, too, Ag Express is looking for drivers. That's right. You better believe it. Full and part-time positions. Retired folks are welcome, and they'll work around your schedule 2 or 3 days a week, whatever works best for you. You're home every night, driving new and maintained equipment, vacation schedules, benefit programs. Wow. You better call Dale and Paul today at 438-8886, Allen in Twin Falls at 731-2495, and Russ in Burley at 431-7175. Ag Express is looking for drivers. Ag Express is looking for you. Well, look who's here right now in all of his radiant glory, and he had his entourage bring him here to the front door, and here he is, Dr. History. Good morning. Whoop, I got to turn your mic on. I forgot about the small little item.
That Entourage is a GMC pickup.
All by your lonesome.
Yeah, drove it myself. Yep.
Hey, you know, we've talked about ladies of the West the last couple of weeks, and last week you talked about, and I think it's safe in saying this, some pretty tough gals.
You did not want to trifle with their feelings, their horses, their husband, their daughters, their cattle, or their hired hands. You just better watch out.
I found a quote that I was going to use for you this morning on the program, and it's from none other than Annie Oakley of 1860, and it goes as follows. I ain't afraid to love a man. I ain't afraid to shoot him either.
Well, there you have it. So I'm actually going to start, we're going to talk about the wagon train women today, okay? Last week we kind of hit the rough and tumble, shoot 'em up, rope 'em type women, and they were tough.
I can't even imagine being on a wagon train. Honestly, I don't think this TV series Wagon Train did justice to the hardship of traveling every day.
You talk about wind over in Wyoming, sandstorms that would just literally tear apart tents or canvas, any of that. So here's a list that I have. It's called the Dirty Dozen of Wagon Packing, or Do Leave Home Without Them. Okay. Do leave home.
Do leave home.
Do leave home.
Okay. Don't take them.
Number one.
All right.
Solid oak furniture. Okay. And you hear stories. The trail was littered with furniture, oak, tables, chairs, armrests, all that stuff. Number two, a sick or lame cow, because that cow is not going to make it.
It isn't even going to get out of St. Joe, Missouri.
Probably not. I mean, okay, you might have fresh steaks one night, but don't take a sick cow.
Yeah, really, no sick cows.
Okay. Number three, a cast iron stove.
That's
great
heavy.
Big. And takes up.
They tried to take those?
Some of them did. And again, those were eventually dropped off.
Yeah.
Okay. Number four, your personal library.
Uh-oh.
Unless it's only 2 books. Zeb, you would never make it.
You and I are in trouble. I've got like 10,000
I
books.
know. You'd need several wagons just for your books.
Yeah.
Okay. Number five, and this is for the women, hoop skirts. Okay.
What?
It says, just try walking behind an ox team in a hoop skirt. And I'm not exactly sure. Anyway.
Maybe there's less said the better on that.
Okay, we'll move right along. Number six, unbroken mules.
Oh.
And you know good and well, some unsuspecting people, they said, hey, yeah, I got these mules, and I'll take them. And first time they go to hook them up, wow.
I can't even imagine the wreck that was.
Yeah, okay. Number seven, year's supply of liquor.
Wait a minute. Now, I don't mind suffering with maybe an unruly mule. I don't mind suffering maybe with a great big cast iron stove, but you ain't going to empty the wagon, are you?
Well, I'm just reading the list, okay? Number eight, grain-fed horses. If you're going to grain feed horses, you're going to have 2 wagons just to carry the grain.
Yeah.
And horses were not as good as oxen or mules.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 9, the family's prized pump organ.
Are you trying? I heard this before that they tried to take those.
Yeah, and again, you've seen the size of those.
Yeah, they're huge and heavy.
Yeah. Okay. So number 10, actually, cotton clothes.
Oh wait, why not?
Wool will keep you warmer when it's wet than cotton clothes.
Well,
that's just that's what they're suggesting.
Okay.
And number 11, wedding dress.
Well, no, wait a minute. The women in the audience might think that maybe somebody single going on a wagon train all the way to Oregon. Whatever.
Okay, I'm just reading the list. Okay. All right. So
really, they make sense. But in those wagons, and you told us this, I think, a week ago, there wasn't much room in there.
I mean, it was essentials. And much as they loved some of their furniture and their books and their cast iron,
How much weight did they take?
I'd have to go back and look. I'm thinking it was like 2,000. Was it 2,000 pounds? I'd have to go back and look at my notes.
I don't know. The wagons were heavy enough.
Yeah, they were.
Depending on the wagon.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're going to talk about the women of the wagon trains. And it was a back-breaking 2,400 miles from the jumping-off spots along the Missouri River to the end of the rainbow in Oregon or California.
In Oregon City. I've been there many, many times.
Yeah. But thousands of women traveled it. They walked it. A lot of them, most of them.
It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
And that was the way most of them came west. They trudged through the mud, the sand, the rocks, beside the wagons because they were overloaded, so you really couldn't ride. So rich and poor, white and black, free, slave, the women journeyed along the trails, bringing... kind of imagine this, kind of a softening influence to this kind of rough civilization.
Some of those women weren't that soft.
I know. So, in fact, here's a gal. Her name was Clara Brown. She was actually a black slave who purchased her freedom in 1859. She hired on as cook to a group of gold prospectors and worked her way across the plains in a covered wagon.
Wow.
Now, Clara started a laundry in Colorado, and after the Civil War, she went back east to search for the relatives she hadn't seen in over half a century.
Oh, my.
She found 34. She brought them to Denver by steamboat and wagon, and she later sponsored other trains to bring black families out west.
Huh.
So, and that's something you really don't see in the movies or
No,
TV.
they don't show that at all. As a matter of fact, on that Wagon Train TV series, I don't think there was ever a Negro that was featured as one of the travelers.
Yeah. Now, some women came west in search of adventure, or like Clara Brown, a new and a better life. I mean, it just sounded great out there.
Yeah.
They came along just to keep their families together. They accompanied their husbands, their fathers, or brothers, and again, lured by the promise of free land in California and Oregon. And in the period from 1840 to 1870, 30 years, more than 300,000 pioneers came west.
Wow.
300,000.
The actual walking every day, and what was a normal day, 10, 15 miles?
Yeah, it just depended on the terrain.
The terrain, yeah.
But, and their stories, actually, a good thing, were a lot of times preserved because a lot of the women actually kept diaries and journals, whereas the men didn't.
Yeah.
So a lot of the things we know about today are from their journals.
And what about the footwear?
As you were saying that, I was trying to think of that, and I don't know what. I'm sure they started out with leather shoes of
You'd
some
want
kind.
some darn good shoes.
I mean, 2,400 miles.
Yeah.
So, but now think of this: to give
I
up,
can't even get 10 miles out of my Justins.
To give up their homes and their friends because they'd been living back
Once
east.
they left St. Joe and they turned around and looked and waved goodbye, that really had a lot of finality to it. I mean, man, that must have been sad.
Yeah. I mean, they were leaving family and friends
Forever.
that they may never see again.
Yeah.
And crossing the plains was not an easy thing to do. Now, one of 5 pioneer women was actually pregnant at some point along the trail. And childbirth was not considered a sufficient reason to stop the wagon train in unfriendly countries. Babies were born and, unfortunately, often buried along the Oregon Trail, amid the heartache, the tears. I mean,
there's a lot of those little graves, unfortunately, right over by Stricker Cabin.
Yeah. And
babies.
And here again, the wagon trains went on. They couldn't stop.
Let me ask you something, Doc, right there. I think it's worthy of a little discussion. They weren't a calloused or uncaring people. It's just that they had to go and be motivated by time and the weather.
Exactly. And you had so much time to make it out west.
Absolutely.
You did not want to get caught in the fall. And there were other serious hazards even for the older children. In large trains, they could get lost among the wagons, the herds of oxen and sheep. They fell out of wagons or off of trees, were occasionally abducted by Indians. They were bitten by snakes. They suffered various forms of sickness like dysentery. They were subject to the ills that have pretty much been abolished by now, like whooping cough, diphtheria, typhoid, and cholera. But can you imagine having a 2 or 3 year old with dysentery, with just sick and
oh my goodness! I can't imagine the disease, the sickness, and you mentioned one other thing that I don't think is highlighted enough: the little kids, walking by a sagebrush, bitten by rattlesnakes or whatever.
Exactly.
I mean, there must have been a lot of that.
Yeah. there's so many hazards that took place just to make it out here, let alone once they got out here. So now some women came west in prairie schooners, the Conestoga wagons, so familiar with movies and TV, but in the later years, actually a few came out in well-sprung horse-drawn carriages, nice ones, but most of them rode in the simple wagons.
Or they walked.
Yes, like those used on the farms back east. They just converted them into a covered wagon. But they were lighter in weight and well built. They had seasoned hardwood. Now, the flatboards that formed the high sides oftentimes were planed for more than one reason, because at the journey's end, they could be dismantled and the wood used to build a lean-to for a temporary home. So they tore their wagons apart to use the wood. And unfortunately, sometimes the wood was also used to make coffins for the less fortunate that died along the way. And then during the height of the cholera years, the trail became really a graveyard from end to end, marked with crosses.
I read a book.
End to end.
I read a book someplace, or a story about the Oregon Trail, that said today we have no idea. We might be standing upon multiple grave sites.
Yes, that have long since been forgotten about.
On the Oregon Trail, unmarked.
Yeah.
Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Quickly.
Good morning, Doc. And, one of the things that's interesting about the handcart company is they were only allowed 17 pounds to go in that cart. And the women thought they could outsmart them, so they put several low layers of their clothing on so they could take it with them. And so these various dresses and everything are strung along the way because they soon found out that was not a good idea.
All right. Well, thank you. We'll have Doc comment on that. Thank you. Go ahead, Doc, please.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Well, once again, you start out with good intentions of everything you're going to take on the trip.
Can you imagine a lady wearing like 3 dresses?
I'm thinking a day or two and you're done. Yeah, so now attack by hostile Indians or raiders and threat of bad weather oftentimes made the burials a hasty affair. And the graves were shallow. They didn't have time to dig them. And when possible, the women insisted that graves be covered or lined with flat stones to keep out hungry wolves and coyotes, as well as grave robbers who might actually disturb the dead to try to get rings or jewelry.
Oh, this is sick. We have another call. Evidently, we've struck a nerve this morning. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, we went on the Goodall Cutoff on a wagon train. And at Les Brody's place west of Cary, there is a child that was bit by a snake, and it's right on her tombstone.
Oh, and that's over by Cary, you said?
West of Cary, yes.
Okay. Doc, thank you very much for your call. God bless you, man. I'll have Dr. History talk about that. That amplifies what you were talking just a moment ago.
Exactly. And I think a lot of times they did not have time to make a headstone or anything. They just had to bury him and go. So
and I think Americans are a very caring and loving people overall. Can you imagine what that did to the families to have to all of a sudden just walk and roll away from that grave?
And again, knowing that they would never be able to come back to that little grave, that or a husband or a wife, not just kids. Now, the duties along the trail were pretty much clearly defined. Men were responsible for maintaining the animals in the wagons and for hunting, fishing, standing guard. Now, in addition to cooking, sewing, cleaning, and doctoring, the women also drove the wagons and a lot of times harnessed the teams. And now, there were other jobs, of course, the raising of the children. They kept the circle of the family intact. They preserved the social order, and under the most primitive of conditions, they set the example for their own basic values.
Did they? I have a question here for you. Morning, start out what time? Sunup?
I'm guessing before sunup they started making fires and getting their Dutch ovens cooking. And
but now, did they or did they not? I've heard 2 conflicting stories on this. They did not take a break for lunch at noon. They didn't want to stop. Is that correct?
That's my understanding.
But they did stop at about 4 in the afternoon, prepare an evening meal, which was basically probably the biggest meal of the day.
Yeah, that's pretty much my understanding. If once you're rolling, you're not going to stop for lunch, really. Now, Indian attack, which was dreaded by the immigrants, of the fictional westerns was for the actual immigrants a relatively small fear when compared to disease and illness, actually. Natural causes took far more lives than were ever lost to the hostile Indians, except for a few tragic incidents when lives were taken by both sides. Most contact with the Indians actually proved helpful during the many years of the immigration. Now, picture this, Zeb. Not every farmer or tradesman immediately became a proficient hunter or frontiersman.
I'm glad I didn't have to rely on my shooting to survive.
You know,
I'd be about 100 pounds lighter.
Okay, so not every guy with his family was great at shooting deer or elk or anyway. So the women of the wagon trains actually traded calico shirts to the Indians and for their assistance in river crossings or for fish and game when their husbands couldn't provide it.
Really?
And, you know, that's one thing we don't hear a lot about. The Indians helped a lot.
Yeah.
Lost people, sick people, time after time. You know, but, you know, in addition to acting as midwives, women were usually the unofficial physicians. And they treated everything from cuts to colic, snake bite to cholera.
You did it, not me.
Anyway, they were the guardians of the precious stores of medicines and remedies that include willow bark. Now, willow bark actually is a substance that's used in aspirin.
You made a point a minute ago. Did you ever stop to think about in history Indians and the Indian children? They were running out in the sagebrush, playing out in the sagebrush. Did they have a quasi-effective way of treating snake bite?
You know what? The Indians had a lot of medicinal herbs and poultices and things like that. And I probably ought to do a show on
I'd
the
like
Indian,
to know about that.
The Indian
really
medicine.
would.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll see what I can find. But you know, like I say, they had willow bark. They had something called poke root, which to bring down fever and reduce pain. Sulfur and molasses was the standard cure for chills and nausea. They actually collected spider webs and used them to stop bleeding from wounds and cuts. Spider webs.
Spider webs.
And they used bread mold for poultices to fight infection. Now, bread mold has what? Penicillin.
Penicillin in it.
And this is 100 years before the discovery of penicillin.
Holy
Okay, but they
moly.
knew that it helped.
Yeah.
Now, they used the essential whiskey and laudanum.
I knew there was a reason that we shouldn't have left that in St. Joe.
Medicinal purposes only.
Yes.
Anyway, that was a derivative of opium, and to help with severe pain, opium for some conditions. Now, malaria, which was endemic in the pioneer stages east of the Missouri, was known, they called it the ague or shaking sickness. And quinine was the standard remedy.
Yeah.
And again, these are all things that the women brought with them. Peppermint oil was the standard treatment for an upset stomach. Oil of clove or
Peppermint oil?
Yeah.
That doesn't make me want to smile.
No. Well, and peppermint oil, like say, then oil of clove or wintergreen for toothache, chamomile tea.
That's the other thing I wanted to ask about. Boy, tooth problems. What
Yeah.
do they do?
Just knock them out. I'll do a show on dentistry one of these days,
Oh, I
Zeb.
can't wait. You know how scared I am of dentists.
Yeah, well, I'll open your eyes on that one. But now, a wise mother always took along a supply of citric acid to prevent scurvy, vitamin C.
Yeah.
Okay. Wise mother.
Why didn't they stop at the 7-Eleven and buy some orange juice?
Yeah, lemons. But, you know, a wise mother also took along, like they say, the citric acid. There was no cure except time for one complaint that struck many at the journey's start.
What?
Seasickness.
Seasickness?
Okay, now picture this, Sam. You're traveling inside the swaying covered wagon, maybe during bad weather, and after a few days, you're going back and forth.
Wait a minute. You don't paint a very good picture here. It's bothering me already.
But after a few days or weeks, they got their sea legs, so to speak. I'd never thought of that. I mean,
neither.
You know, you're in a wagon, for heaven's sakes. Anyway, there's a book called The Immigrant's Guide to Oregon and California, and it provided a list of necessities for housewives. So here's what it is. In addition to powder, lead, and shot for the rifles, the guide recommended 200 pounds of flour, 150 pounds of bacon, a meager 10 pounds of coffee, 10 pounds of sugar, 10 pounds of salt, assorted foodstuffs, including chipped beef, rice, dried beans and peas, tea, dried fruits, baking soda, vinegar, mustard, and tallow. And as you said about the evening meal, food was plain, but it was wholesome, and it kept them going for all those weeks,
Wow.
So I know
we're so spoiled.
We are. We're no Walmarts, Kmarts.
I was waiting for you to invite me to lunch, but you'll never pay. So.
Well, that's true. And here's another thing. Fashion wasn't a concern. A lot of the women made the crossing in the clothes upon their backs, while those more fortunate had actually one or maybe two changes of clothes.
Oh, my.
One comment illustrates the average sad state of the women's clothes. After some time on the trail, a gal by the name of Rebecca Ketchum, who traveled with the wagon train, reported that her dress was dirty and torn in 20 places, but added that she didn't care, as she looked no worse than any other woman. One set of clothes.
And these are tough gals.
They are.
Yeah.
But after the hard crossing, these women who survived set out to rebuild their lives in these new surroundings. I
got to go here pretty quick.
I know it. Bringing the best of civilization to the West, and they succeeded.
Wow.
A tribute to their stamina, their courage.
They were tough.
And even when they got here, sometimes they'd be in a cabin 2 or 3 miles from another cabin.
Yeah.
Wolves, Indians. I mean, they kept a gun handy.
Goober, I'm sorry for everything I've done. Anyhow, great. Do that. Some more stories on the medicine.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find that on the Indian medicine.
Yeah. Dr. History. I got to run.
I know it.
Stick around. I'll be right back with you. Dr. History on Zeb at the Ranch. I really appreciate all that he does, Dr. Ken Turner. I want to remind you, on Thursdays we have a segment called Cassia County School Days, and we really appreciate two businesses sponsoring that show, and it's a Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley. And don't forget, they've got all the Cherokee scrubs and the shoes, and along with all the children's clothing, and they've got hundreds of new summer dresses that have arrived, and you can save 20% at a Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley, along with the Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley, 677-8888 for your outpatient surgery. Save you money. Cataract and glaucoma surgery, life-saving colonoscopies, and more. Call them today. Ambulatory Surgery Center, 677-8888. Along with the Child's World, bringing you school days in Cassia County. Right now, we're going to send it back over to our main studio. We'll be back in 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Once again, I'd like to remind you, Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center at 924 Christian Way in Rupert, the number to call and find out much more information for your loved ones, 436-3200. They make every effort to make Autumn Haven the best place to stay. It's the only locally owned and operated assisted living facility in the Mini-Cassia area, and they urge you to call, find out more about them, and visit anytime. Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center, as I said, only locally owned and operated assisted living facility in the Mini-Cassia area, and they want to have the best place. Don't forget, they're located at 924 Christian Way in Rupert, 436-3200. They're small compared to some, but with a bigger heart than most. Don't forget, too, our friends with Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox offering up to $1,700 in rebates on new Lennox home comfort systems. All you have to do is call Ramsey Heating and Electric today at 678-0459. Ready on the telephone right now is a young lady that writes for The Stream, and her name is Liberty McCarter. She's been here many times in the past. Good morning, Liberty. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back.
No, it's absolutely my pleasure to have you on the program. Liberty, I'm going to tell you right up front about how I feel about the so-called bathroom bill, and then we'll fill in the blanks from there. I am absolutely appalled, and I'm ashamed of a country that would demean God and the chosen genders of male and female, and we're being forced to accept the absolute ridiculousness of transgenderism, and it's affecting our schools, it's affecting our sporting events, and it's affecting our moral values. Now you know where I stand. You pick it up from there.
Well, I think your listeners will probably remember back in February, President Donald Trump revoked a policy that was put in place by Obama, basically mandating that public schools allow students to use whatever bathroom they wanted according to their gender identity, not their biological gender. And if they didn't, then they were threatened with loss of federal funding. And so that obviously posed a problem because it could have potentially also applied to religious schools and private schools. But that policy was revoked by Trump, and they said that it should be left up to states and local school districts. So Texas is the first state to actually tackle that issue since the Obama policy was reversed. And so basically the latest news on that is that the Texas Senate passed the bill a few months ago, and the Texas House just approved an amendment to that bill. Now, personally, I was a fan of the Senate bill. I thought it actually it applied to government buildings, making sure that in government buildings people would just use the bathroom according to their birth certificate. And then allowed businesses to make their own decisions. But the amended edition in the House got whittled down to that it only applies to schools now, and that's important. But I feel like, most of the threats, the people who are actually going to try to take advantage of this, men that are going to try to sneak into ladies' restrooms, that's going to happen in the public. And so we've lost that, and, maybe this is just a starting point, but this is what we have in the House right now.
Liberty, I look at this thing as just nothing more than pervertedness in our society. There is a right and a wrong, and there's a black and a white, and there is male and female. And especially in our schools, at ages where they are so accepting and listening and basically being preyed upon by abnormal things in our society, why in the world would any parent let this happen in their schools?
Well, a lot of parents are against it, and it's interesting, back in March, a group of Texas pastors, they came out in support of this bill, this bathroom bill, saying that it's wrong and it's disrespectful and it's dangerous to just open up bathrooms for anybody to use. It's not being protective of women and children. And so I think if you, according to all the people that are supporting this bill, polling across Texas shows that parents really do want their facilities to be kept private between biological girls and biological boys. And now, a lot of districts are already making accommodations because they might have a student that identifies as transgender. And, in my opinion, these kids are not to blame. They're getting caught up in whatever their parents are allowing them to do, and they shouldn't be bullied or have to suffer. And so I think that schools should be able to find accommodations that work for that particular school district. And that's kind of already happening. And basically with this new Texas House bill, they're saying that if there's an accommodation to be made, that student can use a private facility, a single stall facility, but they just can't be in the public facilities that are shared by multiple students. And I think that you just have to take into consideration what other students have gone through, whether or not their parents or they are comfortable with, being in a private, intimate place like that with someone of the opposite biological sex.
Instead of spending all this money on extra bathrooms and everything else, I've said for a long time, take the same amount of money and have the psychiatrists hired by the schools to work with the parents and the child that is completely messed up. Have you ever stopped to think that we are catering, even in the military today, to this transgenderism, and they comprise less than 1/4 of 1% of our population. And we're bending the rules, changing our social status for these people. Liberty, it's insane.
Well, I think what really is happening is that it's obviously a political push. There are people who are really struggling with gender dysphoria, but you can even look at several members within the LGBT community. I follow them online, and I read, they're partnering up with conservatives saying, hey, this is harmful whenever you push this on our kids, and there's not even enough data to show that transitioning from one gender to the other works for people who are suffering from mental illness or suicidal thoughts. It doesn't help. A lot of times it actually makes things worse, and a lot of times kids grow out of it. And so you don't even have a consensus on the liberal side that is pushing this. And so I think that should give everybody pause to say, is this a legitimate issue that we should be paying attention to, or is it a political push? Is it an agenda that really doesn't have the science to back it up? And I think it's the latter.
Let me give you, and you're a very sharp lady, I think you wrote a very interesting article in regards to this and the problems. Let me give you another facet of this and see what your thoughts are as a writer. Number one, have you really considered what transgenderism is doing to sports and athletics across the nation? We have men that are now getting on girls' teams. We have girls that are getting on men's teams. We have no records or titles anymore, because if a transgender wins on a girls' team, how in the world are you going to give records out for the females? What does this do to Title IX? I mean, our whole society is in an uproar. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and as somebody, I used to play sports in high school. I was a very athletic girl. I think that's extremely unfair because it's not inequality to just acknowledge that as a rule there are biological differences between males and females. Sure, there's the occasional girl that can beat the occasional guy in a sports competition, but in general, you have to look at the majority, and it's not fair for people who have the strength and the stature and all of the advantages of a biological male and put them in a female's competition. I think women should be able to participate in sports and, et cetera, but everybody should be classified according to what's fair. You wouldn't put, a sixth grader in a basketball game with a bunch of high schoolers, because it's different. It's different. And that's okay to acknowledge that things are different, and people are getting that confused. They're thinking that everybody has to be the exact same in order for things to be equal. And I think when you do that, you're overlooking the beauty of individuality.
Have we lost in this society, with your study for writing this piece, Liberty, have we lost in our society the respect for male and female and God-provided genders? I mean, have we lost our minds? And with now, I understand, I read a story the other day back in New York City. There's like 48 different genders that these people get up in the morning and try to adhere to. This is insane, Liberty.
I think a little bit popular culture is losing its mind, and I think you're going to start seeing that it's not fulfilling people, and so they're going to go to more and more extremes to find that fulfillment. And I think people just need to be okay with who they were created as, whether you were a male or a female. And you're not going to find fulfillment in transitioning to another gender or, 48 other genders. And as a Christian, I believe that the more society loses faith and they lose understanding of biblical morality, then the more you're going to see people trying to find satisfaction by extreme measures. And we're seeing that every day in front of us. And so I think that's something for believers to remember when they're talking to these people, is that they really are searching for something, but this is not the answer, and it's hurting a lot of people.
Absolutely. That was very well stated. Liberty, let me ask you this. Can and will Texas win? Because I really think this is a landmark decision and a landmark effort down in Texas. And if this thing falls by the wayside, Katie, bar the door, we're going to see this mess purvey itself all across the United States. What are your thoughts?
I think the prospects look pretty good for this particular legislation. According to all the reports I've read, it is expected, the amended House bill is expected to pass in the Senate, and Governor Greg Abbott has already said he will sign a bill on this issue whenever it hits his desk. So my personal hope is that, it can maybe be built upon later on, just because the big issue for me when it comes to public bathrooms is you have a lot of rape survivors and, people like that speaking out about abuses they suffered and trauma they suffered in public facilities and not just schools. It is important in schools, but in public facilities where you have grown men who might try to take advantage of young girls and women. And so hopefully that issue will be addressed, regarding public use facilities, but this is a start for sure, and I think it will pass.
Liberty, I'll go back to what I said a moment ago. The question why? Why are we catering? Why are we even thinking about changing and altering and giving exclusivity to such a minor part of our population when they need psychiatry? They don't need special rules and regulations and rights. They need psychiatry. Why are we catering them in absolute destruction of the American family and our morals?
Well, I think if you just think about it, we've probably all at some point been in the bathroom with somebody who may have been transgender, living as the opposite gender, and we didn't even realize it. People have gone about their lives like this for a long time, but this issue is all of a sudden just, spiked in popularity. It's at the forefront of the culture wars. And so you're starting to see cities and city governments and local governments like that coming out and saying, hey, guess what? Our bathrooms are open for everybody. Well, whenever you say that, you're invariably going to have people come take advantage of that situation. And so it's forcing people, others to address it. And so it's become this public issue. And I think it's, because not all, but, the many members of the LGBT activist community that are really pushing, they want public affirmation on every single point. And so it has to become an issue, and it has to become a big public battle, and that's just kind of the situation, unfortunately.
Absolutely. Well, Liberty, I praise you for your excellent piece in the stream called The Texas House Approves Amended Bathroom Bill, and I certainly will have you back on in the future. You did a wonderful job explaining that, and please come back. I enjoyed you as a guest.
Well, I enjoy being on, and I look forward to coming back soon.
Thank you very much. Liberty McCarter, a very, very smart and very sensible young lady, and I appreciate what she's talking about this morning as she writes an article for the stream. Well done. Very well done. Time for the weather, and the weather is brought to you by our dear friends at Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. The number to call, 324-7657. And believe me, let me talk a little bit about this buckboard bacon. Leaner and more economical than traditional bacon with a lot of different flavors. It is delicious. All the breakfast sausages, the bratwurst. Oh, I love bratwurst. Ooh, boy. Give me a fajita shell and a bratwurst and I'm tickled pink. You're going to love it at Scarrows Meats in Jerome. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
It's going to be a beautiful day today. We're looking at sunny skies, high of 81 with an overnight low of 54. Make sure that you wear the sunscreen if you're going to be outside for tomorrow. Winds are going to be picking up out of the west, right around 21 miles an hour. Still going to be sunny, though. High of 73 with an overnight low of 43. Thursday, we're cooling off. Still going to be sunny. Winds are going to die down as well. High of 65 with an overnight low of 44. Then maybe some morning rain showers on Friday with a high of 66. That's your weather.
Thank you very much. Scarrows Meats bringing us the weather at 331 North Road, Jerome. Don Scarrow and the rest of the crew changing the way we eat one delicious bite at a time. It is good. Oh, my. I forgot to mention the Wheels. Wheels, are you there, my dear friend?
I am.
Oh, don't scare me like that with dead air. I thought you'd left. I forgot to mention to you that I've got to run to a meeting this morning, and I've got to be there by 11:30. So in just a minute, if you could put on an extra song or so, I'd appreciate that. Would you do that for me?
Well,
That's a 75-cent right there.
Hey, what song would you...
Well, I don't care, but just have something lined up. I'll get back to you in a couple of minutes, okay?
I think I got something in mind.
All right, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, on the program tomorrow, we have got Dave Vigo, Indianapolis, Indiana, and we've got David Cole, excellent national speaker. Richard Manning is going to be on the air, excellent national speaker. And let's see, we got Brian Crabtree. We've got a whole stable full of excellent people on all the topics that are going on in the news today. As a matter of fact, Richard Manning is president of Americans for Limited Government, and I can't wait to hear what he's got to say tomorrow. And all of this and more tomorrow morning starting at 8:06 right here on Zeb at the Ranch. And we're looking forward to that tomorrow morning. I want to remind you that our program is sponsored by one of the biggest, one of the best sponsors anywhere, and that's, of course, the Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you. And, of course, you're probably thinking about a vacation. You're probably thinking about going to Disneyland. You're probably thinking about going down to maybe the Grand Canyon or wherever. Well, get where you're going this summer with the best of tires from your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, boy. I'm telling you, they got tires for all the different vehicles and driving conditions. And you know what else? You need to ask them about a free pre-trip safety check. Includes a visual inspection of tires, including the air pressure, wheel alignment, tire wear, front-end components, brake components, shocks and struts, batteries. I'm telling you, they want to make sure that you arrive safely and get home safely. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers with the best in brake service, front-end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, all of this and more with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. Yep, the best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Woo! What a day. Tomorrow morning, we're going to be here at 8:06, ride the horse for 3 hours, and we've got a lot of great guests tomorrow, and I really, really appreciate your phone calls. You folks are the best audience anywhere at any time. Like I said, I got to run to a meeting. And my dear friend Wheels, he's like the old eagle eye. He's going to take care of things for the next couple of minutes, and then I'm going to be back here tomorrow morning at 8:06 on K-Bar, 12:30 a.m., and then streaming live on the Internet all over the world on ZebBell.com, and we'll look forward to seeing you then. God bless. Have a good day. Wheels, old buddy, take it away.